Hello friends, we have already learnt what are auxiliary verbs. Let's look at a special type of auxiliary verb, that is primary auxiliary verb. A quick recap of what are auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs are used together with the main verb to show the verb's tense or to form a negative sentence or a question. And remember, auxiliary verbs are also known as helping verbs. Now let's look at what are primary auxiliary verbs. Primary auxiliary verbs include the different forms of be, have, and do. Let's take few examples. Is he going for a walk? Here is a form of be and it's a primary auxiliary verb. Grandpa has gone for a walk. Here has is a primary auxiliary verb. I am going to the market. Here am is a primary auxiliary verb. We know it's auxiliary as going is the action being done. So this is the helping verb. Now let's look at the different forms of be. Be, being, been, am, are, is, was, were, isn't, wasn't, was not, aren't, are not, weren't, and were not. Remember, isn't, aren't, and weren't are the contraction. Do you like butter? Here do is the auxiliary verb. It helps us to know that it's a question. Now let's look at the different forms of do. Do, does, did, do not, doesn't, didn't are the different forms of do. Doesn't here is the contraction of does not and didn't is the contraction of did not. I haven't done my homework. Here haven't is the auxiliary verb. Now let's look at the different forms of have. Has, have, having, had, have not, has not, hadn't, which is the contraction of had not, and had not. So remember, be, do, and have are the primary auxiliary verbs in English. To avoid any confusion, auxiliary verbs are of two types, primary auxiliary verbs and modal verbs. Remember, primary auxiliary verbs, like we have seen, includes the different forms of be, have, and do. And modal verbs includes can, shall, will, would. We'll see this in the remaining classes. Thank you so much for watching.